Hello, everybody. C. Ray Brower here with Your Perfect Home and my friend John, the Lone King. He is going to give us some information about his life, how he ended up where he's at, and maybe we'll even get into a little bit about the loan and real estate industry. That will be coming up next. And we are back. Good afternoon, John. How are you today?
I'm amazing. How are you, C. Ray?
Amazing. I love that. I am great. I am great. As I always say, I'm out trying to be the sunshine in somebody's rainy day.
I love it. You are always a ray of sunshine, C. Ray.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So let's just jump right in and start with John Kings with Summit Funding. How long you been in the loan industry and what got you there?
Whew, that's a good question. So I started out in mortgage in 2000. So I am 22 years in the industry. I spent the 7 years before that working in retail sales. I actually worked for Radio Shack and worked my way up.
What was that? Excuse me?
Say that again?
I say, excuse me, you worked for who 7 years before?
Radio Shack.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I did that and burnt out. I was 25 years old and I worked my way up to being a district manager and had 330 people working for me. And I was working 6 to 7 days a week. And that was not the life I wanted.
No.
Then I decided to get into mortgage financing, and well, we work a lot of hours too, but at least I could control a little more.
Our hours.
Yes. So I've been doing it for 22 years and loving every minute of it.
Right on. And when we originally met, you were in Lodi. You still have a Lodi office, but you've moved up to Roseville?
I did. So let's go back. When I first got in the mortgage industry, I spent a couple years working for a finance company called Household Finance. Okay. And at that time, I was living in the Bay Area. So I had decided we wanted to have a little more affordable housing. And so we moved out to the Central Valley. And that's about the time I went to work for Wells Fargo. So I was living in Elk Grove, and Wells Fargo had positioned me in the Lodi market. And that's kind of how I got to being in Lodi. It's one of my best kept secrets. So if any of your audience lives in Lodi or knows Lodi, you got to live in Lodi to be accepted as a person working in Lodi.
Yeah.
So I just never talked about where I lived. I didn't lie. I just let them assume that I lived in Lodi.
kind of like my trip. We just got back from Kansas and kind of did the same little song and dance myself back there. You know, I got a little twang anyway, so people kind of thought maybe I was from there. I always ask, well, I was born in Utah and Idaho, and I've been all over the country.
Sometimes it's easier to let them think what they want to think than to try and change their mind.
Yeah.
So that's what got me in Lodi. And then in 2011, 2011. Yes. We found out we were having our third kid. And my wife said, I'm going to need more of your time helping me out with the kids. And I said, yeah, that's great, babe. But, she wanted me to move my business to Elk Grove. And, as you all know, C. Ray, it's about where you're at and who you know in the relationships you've built.
Right.
And that wasn't really an option. So plan B was her mom lived in Roseville. And so we ended up moving from Elk Grove to Roseville and made that transition in 2011, which was great. And the good news is I love her mom and she's amazing. So that was she's one of the good mother-in-laws, right? So we did that. And then, for about 5 years, I wanted to start building a business in Roseville, and I just never did it. I was afraid. I was tomorrow, right? Tomorrow is our biggest challenge. is we always put something off saying, well, I'll get to that.
Yeah.
And that was one of those things that never, I think fear was a big part. I think whenever you change and is it okay if I get philosophical here, C. Ray?
Absolutely.
Is that, is this Oprah? Can you put me on the couch?
Next time we will both sit on the couch.
That sounds like a plan. I think that, change is fear, just riddled with fear. And I think that we put some things in our way, and I certainly had some things in my way. And I had, hey, if I move my business and add Roseville, then the people I have relationships in Lodi won't work with me anymore. And it was really deeply rooted. Like, it was a very real concern, almost to the point that when I finally announced to the partners I was working with in Lodi that I had opened an office in Roseville, I had 2 people come up to me and say, are you dumb? Like, why would you tell us? You're going to lose all your business. I kind of spun it the other way, and I said, you know what? Let me demonstrate what it looks like to embrace your fear and just tackle it head on. And that's what I did. So it's the best thing I've ever done. I maintain my office in Lodi. I've got a lot of business in Lodi and a lot of partners and clients in Lodi that I love, and I hope and think they love me. But I've added another opportunity in a new market, and it's been super exciting and super rewarding.
Oh, that's great. I'm so happy for you. I know we do kind of get in our own head about what could happen, what might happen. And most of the time, if we just step forward, we find out that, we might get knocked back a step, but we've already stepped forward 2 or 3. And one step back is always progression forward. So I can appreciate that.
I came to work for my current company, Summit Funding. So I stayed at Wells Fargo for 9 years, and then I went to work for Summit Funding in 2011, and been there for 11 and a half years now and loved every minute of it. One of the things I love the most about Summit is their integration into coaching. And you talk about, C. Ray, taking a step forward, breaking through the fear. I don't know if I would have done it if I didn't have a coach that helped me. And not all of us have a coach, but we all have somebody that we trust. We all have somebody that we can let guide us, because we get too emotional about things. Right. And it's really hard to make decisions when you're tied to the emotion of it. And that's where a coach, that's where an advisor, a mentor can make the world of difference. And I wouldn't be where I was today if it wasn't for that.
Yep. And if you've picked the right coach and or mentor, it's a two-way street. Mm-hmm. Everybody is actually gaining knowledge and raising themselves up.
I agree. I'll tell you, so I've been coached for 11 years, and 5.5 years ago, I became a coach. So I coach loan officers across the country every week. And I get as much or more from being a coach as I do from being a student. It forces me to walk the walk. How can I tell somebody to embrace their fear and step into it if I'm not doing the same thing? So it really is powerful to put yourself out there and do stuff like that. Yeah,
it really is. This way this conversation is turned reminds me of 2 things that I have always said. And people find it hard to believe that I had a severe fear of public speaking. I was the president of the La Quintana Men's Club for 5 years. And for the first 2.5 years, I never stood up and spoke. I always asked somebody else to do it. And
so what changed?
What's that?
What changed? How did you, 2.5 years you did?
La Quintana Men's Club.
No, but what I'm saying is, for the first 2.5 years, you couldn't stand up or wouldn't, and then you did. So how did you break through that?
They changed the picture in the dictionary to the worst speech ever when it was the men's club championship, and I'd had somebody that was going to stand up and give the trophies and all the stuff. And we were literally sitting at the head table when the pro come up behind me and leaned in and goes, "C. Ray, Bob's not coming. Are you going to do it? You don't say no, right? I mean, you step forward. You always step forward. And I went, yeah. My buddy with me says, so, what was that? I said, well, I guess I'm going to get up and give the trophies. He goes, okay, you got it. And I stood up and started talking and started stumbling and started stuttering. And it just went from pretty bad to really, really bad. I don't remember who took the microphone away from me, but I was pretty red-faced. My buddies in the back are heckling me, drunk buddies heckling me. And I sit down, and my buddy sitting next to me, he leans over and says, it wasn't that bad, C. Ray. And I said, I don't know where you were, guy, but they're changing the picture today. I said, you don't have to worry, though. That will never happen again. And he says, you can't not public speak. You can't not step forward. And I said, guy, here's the deal. Our greatest victories in life come from stepping through our greatest fears.
100%.
And so I stepped through my greatest fear. I joined BNI. I did a whole bunch of things. And now I can stand up off the cuff and start talking. It doesn't bother me anymore. But everybody has that fear of standing up and looking dumb. And so most people never do. And then you talked about how teaching has been so great for you. I truly believe that God puts us on the earth for 3 reasons and 3 reasons only. And the first is to learn something. And the second is to teach something. And the third is to learn something while we teach something. And I've said that for years.
Well, you haven't said it to me, C. Ray, so this is a first. Thank you.
You bet. No problem. I mean, it's, things come out at the time they're supposed to, right?
That is correct. That is correct. Yeah. It's interesting. Everybody says, oh, John, you're so outgoing and you're such an extrovert, and you wear such modest clothing, right?
Yeah,
like, I'm
pretty
really
modest. Yeah.
And what's funny is I wasn't that way as a child. I was quiet and I was introverted and I didn't have a lot of friends, but I realized early on as an adult that wasn't going to serve me well. It wasn't going to help me get to where I wanted to be. And so I had a vision. I had there's a life that I want to build, and playing small, being the smallest version of myself, not only robbed me of that vision and fulfilling that vision, it robbed those around me that I wouldn't have otherwise impacted. Right. And I don't know where I got that from. Maybe I made it up myself. I don't know. I can't point to a particular moment in time that I changed that thinking, but it was clear after I graduated from school, I was like, look, this isn't going to work. I have to be a bigger version of myself in order to really have the impact on my life and other people's lives that I want to have.
There you go. Yeah. So we're in a little bit of a crazy time here with the real estate market. What's your best advice?
My best advice is hang on. It is, oh man, I have a lot of thoughts. C. Ray, can I plug some of the videos that I do? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
So I have a YouTube channel, John Lone King. So just Google @John Lone King and you can sign up for my YouTube channel. I do a lot of videos on these topics, so I have a lot to say. And the truth is, nobody knows what's going to happen. There is so much unknown, and I'm going to say this in a way that I'm going to have to qualify. I love times like this. Now I say that, and my qualification is I'm a student of my industry, and we are dealing with economic, social, political environments that are going to be talked about for years. Like every day, what happens today is history of tomorrow.
Yep.
But this is like, and I'm not calling this 2008. I'm not saying that that's happening, but as a student of my industry, a student of economics, I'm living through a major cycle change and watching it happen on a daily basis, that books are going to get written about this stuff.
Yep.
So I'm a bit fascinated by it. It is, but the fact of the matter is, for a lot of people right now, they are in a really good place where they are with their mortgage. Let's be real. For the last 2 years, rates were below 3%. And as of this week, they're well over 7%. So for most people that might want to upgrade or downsize their home, it just doesn't make sense. And as much as, look, I think everybody knows this, but I'm very direct about it. I only get paid when you do a loan. C. Ray only gets paid when you buy or sell a house. Neither one of us want you to do something that doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. Got to look out for that person right there.
Yep.
That person is one that matters, and then you get taken care of.
Yep. It's 100% the case. I'm right now talking more people out of doing something, not because it's a bad idea, but because when we really look at it, I had a client I talked to yesterday who wanted to upgrade. He needed 1 bedroom bigger. He has a house that he thinks is worth $450,000, and he wanted to trade that in, sell it, and buy a $500,000 home. And in his mind, hey, I'm only increasing by 10%, so maybe my mortgage payment's going to go up by 10%. It almost doubled because his property taxes are so low because he bought 20 years ago and his interest rate's at 2.5%. It didn't make sense. He's going to spend an extra $1,500 a month to get 1 extra bedroom. Yeah. It just doesn't make sense. Yeah. So I've said a few times recently on my broadcast that I feel like we're in a freeze, which is very, very different than a crash. A crash means that people have to sell. Right. And that happened in 2008 because the banks took over ownership of the home and the banks aren't allowed to hold on to them. Right. But that's not the case today. Today, you've got people who they're happy where they're at. Right. They've got a really good payment, a low payment compared to their strong income. Right. So what does this mean? It means that we're going to have a period of time where prices are going to fluctuate really, in my opinion, based on where interest rates are. And the higher rates go, the lower prices are going to go. See, Ray, if you think about, and let's take you, for example, there's a particular neighborhood and a particular size of home that fits best for you and your family. Is that a fair statement? Right. Okay. Very true. So if interest rates double, and your payment almost doubles, can you just simply say, fine, I'll happily buy in a lower priced neighborhood. I'll take something significantly smaller. I can buy half the sized home. I'll just put all 3 of my kids in 1 bedroom. Is that realistic? Not usually. Not usually. Not usually. So what has to happen is, look, that person, C. Ray's perfect neighborhood is still his perfect neighborhood. But the average person that's perfect for that neighborhood cannot afford the price in that neighborhood. So the prices in the neighborhood come down to match what not dollar for dollar, but they move down. And the question becomes, well, then I should wait until prices drop further. If you're paying cash, maybe that's a good idea. Problem is, how do you know when you hit the bottom? You don't. You don't. So that's the challenge is what people forget is, what is your current cost that you're paying today? Because you can say, hey, I'll wait, but I'm also spending a whole bunch of money in rent right now. Yeah. And the only way prices are going to drop more is if interest rates skyrocket more. And guess what? Unless you're paying cash, that means that you're going to have to pay even more in a monthly payment, and you likely won't qualify. So it's really simple, and it's simple, but it's not easy to accept. I tell people, if you can, first of all, let me back up and say this. I think that we are headed for a recession. One may argue we're already in it. And every recession in history, mortgage rates have been lower at the end of the recession than at the beginning. Now, I can't promise that's what's going to happen, but for lots of reasons that we may or may not want to get into. I'm confident we're heading into a recession.
Yeah.
And when something's happened 100% of the time in the past, pretty good guess it's going to happen again in the future.
Kind of weird how history repeats itself.
Isn't it? It is. So why does that matter? Well, it matters because there's a lack of homes out there. And what I mean is there's not enough homes that have been built in the last 20 years compared to the population growth.
Yep.
And builders didn't build from 2007 to 2015 because they were afraid. And now builders are slowing down again because buyers aren't willing to buy homes at these prices. So our supply issue isn't being solved. But we still have a whole bunch of people that want to buy homes. They've just chosen to wait because they're either afraid because rates are up so high, or they don't qualify because rates are up so high.
Yep.
C-Ray, what do you think is going to happen when rates come back down? What are those people going to do?
Well, those people are going to buy.
And what's going to happen to housing prices when all those people want to buy again and
they're
still
going to go up
houses?
because the supply isn't there. I mean, I've said it all along. My very, very first open house when I got into the industry was a house out in Murata, $750,000. Never done an open house. Tell my wife, I want to go out and walk the house and see. I'm doing it for somebody else, another realtor. And so we drove out. I'm looking for the lockbox. There's no lockbox on the house. I've called the realtor. I'm waiting for a call back because I know there's got to be a key there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Having the open house tomorrow morning. This is Friday night at 6:00, right? So as we're standing there by the car, in the driveway rolls this lowered Suburban, blacked out windows, really nice tires, cruising on in. My wife says, "Oh, are we in trouble? Are we in trouble?" I went, "No, we're not in trouble." She says, "Well, what is that the owner?" And I said, "No, that's somebody that wants to buy this house." And she says, "What makes you think that?" I said, "Just watch." I stopped. Guy gets out. "Hey, you the realtor that's got this listed?" I said, "No, I'm holding an open house tomorrow." Though conversation back and forth. His wife, well, first he says, "That's terrible." And I said, "Why is that?" Told him what the price was. He said, "Because we looked at this house 6 months ago, and she wanted to buy it, and I wouldn't."
Mm-hmm.
Because the weeds were this high, and when you went inside, it was all dark and dingy and spider webs, and it was just horrible. He says, "I'm waiting for Michael Moore to come out." I was scared.
Perfect time of year for that reference.
So he didn't do anything. They didn't do anything. She gets out. We start talking, and she said, we went back and forth, and I said, "Well, are you going to come to the open house?" She said, "Well, I don't think so. I'm going to wait for the prices to go down." Now, I've been in the industry 7 years. We know what's happened in the last 7 years.
This is the first time prices have come down a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And I told her, I said, "Well, why are you going to do that?" She says, "Well, so I can get a better price on the house." I said, "I'm going to tell you one thing right now, and I'm a firm believer in this." She says, "What's that?" I said, "There's never a bad time to buy a home. There's always a bad time to buy a house." And she said, "Well, that's the same thing." And I said, "No, because we've had the discussion. You got your 2 kids right over here, and you've said you want to get them out of the environment of the schools that they're in, and you want a place to build memories. That's a home. That's a home.
Mm-hmm.
A house you buy today so you can make more money on it tomorrow or next week or next month."
Mm-hmm. You're 100% correct. I think that people get confused about timing the market versus time in the market.
Right.
And it's a really, really big difference. So, there's something I like visuals. So would you be okay if I shared my screen and showed your audience something?
Absolutely.
Perfect. So let's see if this should work. I know how to do this. All right. So people talk about they're worried about a housing crash. And so C-Ray, if you can add that to the studio.
Add to stream. There we
Perfect.
go.
All right. There's a little bit of a flash there. I don't know if that's on my end or yours.
Let's
Well, I'll just show you really quick.
I'll do it
here.
this way, I think. There.
All right, perfect.
Me.
So I'll be quick and simple. This is the history of houses going back to 1965. Would you mind deleting your over? Thank
Yeah.
you. All right. So all you see is house prices going up and up and up. A little bit of dips, a little bit of dips. Okay. But what I want to point out is there's never been a 10-year period ever where housing prices were lower 10 years later from whatever starting point. So let's pick the peak of the market in 2007. So we've got first quarter 2007, the average median home price is $257,000.
Yep.
And we go forward to get back to $257,000 took until 2013. It was 6 years. So when people say, oh my gosh, I'm worried. Well, what happened was we had a huge run up right here. That run up is because rates were super low. So when rates go low, prices go up. When rates go up, prices go down some. But that same chart looked just like this back in 2005. It was going up significantly. It came back down, but it rebounded. So you can go ahead and close that back up. We'll stop sharing that. I just want to point out, and the reason I'm showing you this is people worry about, oh my gosh, I've got to time the market perfectly. Even somebody who bought at the peak of the market in 2007, as long as you had a fixed rate, that's the key. Most people in 07 didn't have a fixed rate. Okay. As long as you had a fixed rate and you didn't plan on moving in the next 5 years and you can afford the payments, you didn't lose.
Yeah.
Because you didn't pay somebody else's mortgage by being a renter. You paid your own mortgage. You got a tax write-off that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of fear right now, and it's real. I'm not telling you that rates are high, payments are high, but if you are a renter and you can afford the payments and you don't expect to move in the next 5 years, this is the best time to buy because you don't have a lot of competition. That to me is the most important thing I'm trying to get out as a word, as not the word, but as a message is don't, now, if you can't afford the payment, don't get the loan. And the payments are up a lot right now. So that's the challenge, is what's a payment that you can afford? But I think too many people misunderstand what afford means. Buying a house is an investment. So maybe you cut back a little bit on how much you're putting into your 401k, because now you're putting money into this investment we call home ownership. So there's ways to tweak your life a little bit to make it more affordable, but it's absolutely the best time to buy, in my opinion, because guess what? Your payment's going to get lower when rates fall and you can refinance. So if you can afford it today, you're really going to be able to afford it later.
When the rates come down. Exactly. Well, John, we've been on 27 minutes. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Everybody, go out and be the sunshine in somebody's rainy day. And you got any questions? John's contact information has been scrolling down there below. Please reach out to him. Need anything, reach out to me. Again, go out and be the sunshine in somebody's rainy day, and we will see you all real soon. Thank you so much again.